Ladies and gentlemen, grab your gloves and get your compost ready. Stepping into the ring is the perennial powerhouse, the sultan of soil, the beast of the beds, where permaculture reigns, food grows wild, community roots run deep, and yes, the garden punts hit hard. Freedom starts in the soil. This is the Guerrilla Gardening Show.
Welcome back to the Guerrilla Gardening Show. I am Mike with Mike's in the Garden. Here as always with my man Sam, Central Florida
What's
Abundance.
going on, y'all? Yep, it's me here on the computer, getting ready we're getting ready to plant out for fall, but I've been doing a lot of work in the garden recently. And one of the plants that I've been having to control a lot, but has become very useful in the perennial area, is Panadol. And I think I was recommending it to you for some places in your area. So I got a video here kind of showing off the Panadol under and around some of my fruit trees. And it's mixed in with some other stuff. But this plant's been, hugely abundant for us. Are you familiar with it, other than what we've talked about?
Not at all. First time I heard it was, it sounds like something you'd hear on a Pfizer commercial, but
there actually is a medication called Panadol that uses this as one of the main ingredients. A lot of our synthetic medications have their roots in plants, and the compounds that the plants produce. But the reason that the Panadol is used for the medication is because of the benefits it has for your respiratory system. And that's how it's been used traditionally, usually as like a tea. And when you feel that onset of sore throat, congestion, people would drink the tea, and then that would alleviate a lot of those symptoms.
Okay.
So let's pull the video up and I'll show a little bit of how it grows, because it is one of those plants that it's very aggressive. It's in the mint family. And so this is a mix of Panadol, sweet potatoes, and some Dune sunflower I have as like a ground cover. But a majority of it is the Panadol, and it's in the mint family, so it's a creeping plant, a lot like your garden mint, spearmint might be, but the difference is that it creeps above the ground. And so you can see in here, if we play the video, it'll go through, and you can see they're not vines, but they're soft stems that just kind of creep along the ground right in there. And what that does is completely cover the soil. And you can see, the amount of green growth that it produces. And as that stuff dies, it's going to decompose into the soil. What's crazy to me, and even just looking at it right now, is this area of Panadol started with like 5 little 4-inch pieces of cutting. And that was maybe a year ago. So right here, I'm ripping some up, and just kind of showing the morphology of the plant. You can see how those leaves will stick up, but then he's got these long stems that go along the ground and pretty shallow roots. Whoops, that's my bad. It's got pretty shallow roots that actually go in. So it's pretty easy to remove. You do just have to be careful. It's not a good chop and drop plant because it will just continually reroot along those cuttings. But it's really easily intentionally spread. The leaves are very soft and they're very, very fragrant. You can just like brush this plant and you'll get, a good whiff of the smell of it. So much so that it's said that it repels mice and rats and cats. One of the other names for this is the scaredy cat plant.
Okay.
In my experience, well, I can attest that the cats in my area do not care about it. They actually enjoy to sleep on it. I think because it's so soft. I'll see like big beds they've just, made in the Panadol. Uh, and I mean, it can't hurt it. So, whatever. Uh, and because of that, I assume it probably doesn't work for like vermin either. But those compounds, can deter some insects away from some of your plants, which is why it's really good to have, around the base of things. You wouldn't want this growing, around small herbaceous plants or like annuals in an annual bed, because this thing's going to overtake it. Unless you just, stay on top of it. I'd be interested to see how easy it would be to like compost, like in a hot compost, how much it would take for it to not just, sprout back up in it.
Mm.
But what's great, is really the medicinal properties and the fact that this plant is so easy to grow in Central Florida's climate. Um, you know, if you don't have a large yard, if you don't have an area that, is safe to just let it grow out wild, it's easily grown in a pot as well. And then you can just keep it small, clip it when you need to make some tea. And it'll just keep living. And you can, pass it along to your friends and family very easily. This is definitely one of those medicinal plants that everybody should have, in their medicine cabinet. It's really easy to use. It's very safe. You'd have to drink, I don't know. It's one of those, you drink 13 gallons of it and it's probably going to upset your stomach. But, regular use is never going to cause any ill effects to you.
Okay. So it's like weed. You can't OD on it.
It actually smells a little bit like really skunky stuff. Like,
Okay.
if you were just, it's like a really skunky Cuban oregano, if you can imagine that.
So
Do
this
you ever?
this
Go
has
ahead.
a smell on its own. You don't have to like rub it or break it up. It's pungent on its own.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you do break up those leaves, you can it's very wet. You can feel the oils coming out of that. And I mean, a lot of the mints can have like antibacterial properties. So I'd imagine this could be really useful in a lot of things. Obviously I need to study some more of the traditional uses for it because I'm sure in its native habitat, it's been used for thousands of years for different things. But it makes a great ground cover.
Yeah, it looks pretty great as a ground cover, almost like a perennial peanut, maybe, or
Way more competitive than perennial peanut. And the
okay.
main reason is because it gets about maybe 12 inches tall, but it won't get much taller than that. But because it has that height where, your perennial peanut, the sunshine mimosa, clover, all of those things never get more than, a couple inches tall. And so the grass is able to easily just grow above them. Where this, you can see the grass trying to make its way around the edges and, it's trying. What I do is just run the weed eater right along the edge of this Panadol and, cut the Panadol, but also cut the grass that's underneath it. And the Panadol regrows over that spot, much faster than the grass would. But what's beautiful, and I wish I had a video of it, I couldn't find one anywhere, in the fall. So like around, I guess in another 3 or 4 months, like end of October, November, it'll get these flower spikes. And it's a lot like you'd see like sage flowering. It's a tall spike with purple flowers all along that, and they come up at the ends of these shoots here. So you end up with, a clump this size. I mean, just at this clump in the picture, there'll probably be, 15 to 20 purple flower spikes. So then you imagine the whole backyard and they're just everywhere. So that's why I cut it back now so that it can regrow a little bit before it goes to flower. And then usually before those flowers, like when those flowers start to fade, when they lose a little bit of the color in the petals, I'll just trample the whole thing. Because I don't really trust it not to cast seeds everywhere. So, I trample it all in. It kind of acts as a cover crop because, those nutrients from the plant parts of the plant that I've trampled are going to die and turn into, decomposed organic matter. But the rest of the plant the underground is just going to come right back up in the spring. So, it's pretty useful in cycling nutrients. You do just have to be cautious about, where you plant it and what you plant it around. The Panadol in my yard is planted mostly around the base of trees. So I have like a pomegranate, a loquat, a kumquat, and a star fruit in this area behind this. And they're all tall enough that their leaves are well beyond this. And, if it rains a lot, if it gets real damp, what I'll do is make sure that the Panadol is not crowding around the stems and the trunks of those plants, just so, because, it holds a lot of moisture. It has a lot of moisture in those leaves. So it can cause some rot, if it just piles up on there. So it's one that if you're going to put in the ground, you got to be willing to pay attention to. But I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I'm curious. Maybe the next time unless you've observed this already, you do some weed eating. If cats still are okay with it, drawn to it, and other vermin, because I've used peppermint oil in the past. If there was, like when I had my shop, before we moved in, it was like vacant for a couple of months. So there was, no lie, like 20 giant spiders that took over the entryway because nobody was going in and out. There was a light on there every night. And so I'm fine with spiders. My customers weren't. But the only way I could get rid of them permanently was to take cotton balls soaked in peppermint oil and place them in certain areas. And that smell deterred them. Later, I had used it at a property I had and to try and get rid of mice that way. And it did get rid of the mice. So I'm curious and that was the reason I asked how it smells on its own, because I know sometimes like the properties are, more abundant, I guess, if they're cut or opened. And so I'd be curious to see the next time you do some weed whacking around here, if you were to take what you weed whacked and spread it around and see if that deters. I don't know how often you see vermin or if you have a cat or any cats in your area, but
we have tons of cats. I'm actually interested to test it out on the ants now that you mentioned that. Because that's another thing that peppermint oil is pretty good for.
okay.
I definitely trust it more for bugs than like large animals, but you're probably right that, the cut pieces are going to be a lot more fragrant. And maybe that's what people, mean when they say that it can be used to deter larger animals. If you, there's so much. I guess I could make some oil out of it. I could make a tincture or, an oil infusion and spray it around. If anybody's interested in seeing me do that, let me know down in the comments.
Yeah, for sure.
But I have an anecdotal story that proves the miracleness of this plant. So my girlfriend was sick last week, and she had this just head cold, congestion, real weird, and she had it for about 3 days. Terrible, you know, couldn't go to work, barely got out of bed, kind of thing, just exhausted. I gave her some Panadol tea. The next day, she was feeling like halfway better. Went to work. Day after that, completely fine. I drank some of it at the same time. Never got sick, and I'm not one to be convinced too easily. That was fascinating. And since we were doing this, the real crazy thing was we met two other people, some friends and neighbors that we got with over the past weekend, and they told us that they also had gotten a weird like congestion, respiratory illness that they went to the doctor for. The doctor prescribed them medications that they said did nothing, other than just like put them to sleep. And they were sick for about a week and a half, both of them. And so after hearing that, that was definitely pretty intriguing. And so it's something that I'm going to continue using in the future. I don't get sick too often, but if I do ever feel anything coming on, that's going to be one of my go-tos. And I'll keep everybody updated on the socials. Oh God, maybe I need some now. It is tasty though. I'll say that. I mixed it with some ginger and turmeric, but even alone, it does not have a bad taste.
Yeah, I
there it
wanted
is.
to.
I wasn't even going to try to pronounce this. Plectranthus canensis.
Plectranthus canensis. Yeah, or Coleus canensis.
No, so those are different. The Coleus is a little more wild. It's not going to be the one that you'll never find that at a nursery.
Okay.
You're always going to find Plectranthus, which is interesting. I never really thought about that. But those are different genuses with the same species name. Anyway, what do you got up here? What are you showing us?
I just as we do these episodes, Sam, with plants that maybe most people aren't familiar with. I guess I fall into most people category, but I figured I would just bring up some, Google, Wikipedia, they never lie. So we're just going to bring up the information that they spit back to us. And here we are.
Pull up the images. I want to see if the flowers are on there. That's worth seeing.
Yeah, these little spiky flowers here.
And I've never used the flowers, but I mean, potentially they have uses as well. But yeah, you end up with those little spikes all over the plants. So, I mean, it's got all the benefits. It's useful in the food forest for, soil control. It's medicinal and it's beautiful. It's a little bit invasive. So, if we find out where it's native, they should definitely plant it. But, we can plant it here responsibly.
Yeah, nice. All right. Well, I'm excited to get some and try it on my own. I know we've you mentioned next time we get together.
I'm going to send you some in the mail. I feel like this is one that can survive. I gave some of these to a friend after they'd been in my truck for several weeks. You know how it goes. I've given you a lot of those truck cuttings, and they were like 100% success rate. And
okay,
so I think they'll be pretty good.
Excellent.
And then you can get them for next spring. They'll all be established by then.
Yeah, if you're watching and you have Panadol, comment down below. What do you do to maintain its growth? Are you using it medicinally like Sam, putting it in a tea? How do you consume it? And I guess give us your comments and experience with this plant.
Yeah, I want to hear how everybody's using it.
Yeah, so really interesting stuff with this Panadol. Like I said, I had never heard of it before, so I'm curious to get some feedback from our viewers out there. And if you have like crazy Panadol or maybe a really interesting story, maybe we start doing a segment or something where we, read some of these comments back and see what's going on. So
That's true. I would like to see what people are making with their Panadol. If you're making tinctures, if you're making balm, if there's other uses for it other than, just ingesting through tea, let us know and you're letting everyone know. That's the kind of information that we need to get out there.
yeah, absolutely. Knowledge is power, G.I. Joe. Okay, I want to share our
Yeah, who are we going to
spotlight.
spotlight?
Yeah,
Who
let's
spotlighting this
spotlight.
week?
I have not met this gentleman. I know that you have been to his property, right? You've been to Ever Oak Farms.
Yes, yeah, a couple days out there hanging out with Mike on different occasions. His place is awesome. And it's kind of become a hub of the like permaculture, agroforestry community around the Orlando area. He has people out there. He does presentations, and he's just your normal guy that likes being outside. He loves Florida. I think it's like a 3-acre farm, and I mean you can see he does chickens, he does produce, he does honey. They do all sorts of classes. Malachi is going to be out there giving a class. Is that? Yeah, it's really cool, and it's a really great model for what farming could be if we worked a little bit more closely with natural systems. He's cycling nutrients through the use of quick growing plants. He's creating infrastructure like shade through proper planting choices. And I mean, he has some machines, but it's not your mechanized farming that most people are used to. There's a lot more machetes and pruning scythes out there than tractors. But yeah, that's him and his family. You see the kids out there on the farm a lot too. That's always fun to see. Like, his kids get out there and help him do the work. So y'all should go support his CSA. Check out his farm if you're in or near Orlando. It's worth the drive. It's like a 2-hour drive for me, but I still try to make it out there when I can.
Yeah, I got to get down there and check it out. Like you were saying, it's kind of like tucked away in like a part of the city, and you just drive down a couple side streets. Next thing you know, there's this amazing farm. So
it really is. You wouldn't expect it. You pass by like strip malls, you turn a corner, and then you're in a neighborhood, and then you're at the farm.
Yeah, I love it.
But yeah.
Yeah, we need more of this.
I think he's a chef too. So he used to do like farm to table dinners at the restaurant or at the farm that he cooked, which I'm all about that. If you'll cook my food for me, I'll be there.
Yeah, for sure. Excellent. Sam, another great episode. Panadol, a word that's now entered the vernacular. So thank you for that. You do consultations, food forest tours, garden
consultations on abundance. I teach people about how to utilize Florida's abundance through the natural processes, through building soil. And I've got a farm where I use all those practices in Auburndale. You can check us out at igofarm.com. You can also check out Central Florida Abundance on all the socials to keep up with us. And then you can also check out Mike. Where are we going to find you?
You're going to find me at Mike's in the Garden pretty much everywhere that the mind control platforms are. I'll be there, mind controlled with you. And of course, you can always support the channel here by grabbing a t-shirt And that's about it. So you can go to the link below, check out some of these shirts here.